What? What?
What if the world had more of your smile? What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no wars. Maybe the birds will sing about your heart. Maybe the trees will whisper the word. Maybe the sun will spread your joy to the world.
Hello, pardon my mess. We got back from Costa Rica literally less than 24 hours ago, but welcome to another work week in the life, a 9 to 5 week in the life of a medical social worker. I'm a little sweats McGee right now because I did a little bus and then walk combo to get back instead of doing a shuttle and then car combo to get back. Trying to be creative with my commutes using public transportation. If you haven't watched the 2 most recent work week vlogs, hello, I'm Anna. I'm a licensed master level social worker and I just recently started at a children's hospital doing social work. So this is all new to me. I had some orientation weeks and I've been shadowing, but then I left for 2 weeks to go to Costa Rica and now I'm back, and so now it's like really getting going. I'm excited for the work week this week, like this specific vlog, because I feel so ready to be back in a routine. Like obviously vacation is so fun and so good, but it was long enough. It was literally June 1st to June 12th. So it was long enough that towards the end I was like, okay, I feel really ready to get into a routine and to actually like dive into my new job. So I loved vacation, but I was also very excited to be back here. But then with that, there's a whole lot fitting into this week, both within work and then outside of work too. I feel like I have so much to talk about and that I want to catch up on that it's hard not to just like sit down and make this be a 25-minute long clip right now. But as far as work today, because I got in this morning and I had, I think it was like 86 emails, which for being new, I feel like it's kind of a lot of emails to sit in the inbox. Obviously it could be more after 12 days, but 86 emails that I slowly started working my way through so I could piece together my schedule for the upcoming weeks, you know, see if anything, what's going on. So I did that for a little bit, and then I went to an hour-and-a-half long risk and legal training, which is just a yearly training that they do. What's a little bit funny is that last year's risk and legal training was part of my orientation videos that I needed to watch like 2 weeks ago. So I watched an hour-and-a-half long presentation from last year, but I watched it last week or so, and then I sat through almost the same presentation again today. Obviously there's like some differences, but a lot of the risk and legal clarifications stay the same. As far as medical social work goes, that's a lot talking about consent, who can consent, legality around DNRs or medical withdrawals, like withdrawal of care, mandated reporting, disruptive behavior, like what the hospital is legally allowed to do, who can visit children, what else? Some clarifications on more complex legal situations, such as if a child has a visitor who's wanting to visit them who is on the registered sex offenders list. I guess sex offender registry is what that's called. Registered list. Laws around parents who are minors and how they are able to consent for their own child, even if they are like 16 or something and can't consent for themselves. So like stuff just gets tricky there. So that's why they do the trainings on that. But that was an hour-and-a-half of my day. And then I shadowed one specific social worker today. So the rest of the day was kind of just up to whatever she had going on, which today ended up being that I put my first documentation into Epic myself. We assisted a family start the application for SSI disability because there's a lot that goes into the application, including like medical records, which means that then we need consent from the parent to release medical records to the Social Security office, and kind of like working with the parent to start the application, because then it can take up to 6 months for that to get approved or get started or whatever it may be. So I got to see how the process went of educating the parent, because obviously like they decide if they want to apply or not, but this parent had already had that conversation and did want to apply, just didn't know how to. And so educating the parent on the process and helping the paperwork go through and sending the paperwork through and then documenting that I did that. And then the other documentation that I did today was that parents who have kids in the ICU have the option to sleep in little sleep rooms that are on site, since not every ICU room has like a bed or a chair. Some of them are more open floor. And so I referred a parent to get a sleep room for the night and then documented that I did that. That was the main bulk of the day. And now that we're into the evening, I'm gonna get a run in. I'm gonna head to the library, gonna see what I can do for myself to like get back up and going after being gone for so long. I made a notes app list though of like questions I've been getting and things I want to talk about in this video, so I'll make sure to cover everything. But thanks for joining me for another week. This is the first time being in my car in almost 2 weeks, which feels wild. It's kind of stinky in here a little bit. I just guess from like the rain and getting kind of humid and then like not being, I don't know. But I wanted to do a quick reading wrap up of my vacation books. If you follow me on Instagram, then you've kind of followed along the fact that I brought 13 books on vacation. I ended up reading 7, well, reading 8, finishing 7, which I feel like is really impressive. If you don't care about the reading, I'm planning on chaptering this video so you can just skip to the next chapter. No hard feelings, no worries, but I'm dropping off some at the library now because they're due literally today. I don't know if I have holds to pick up. I could check online, but I think I'm just gonna look whenever I get in there because it'll be like a fun little present if I do have holds to pick up. Honestly, the average rating of these books was like super high, I feel like, for just like a whole group. Like it was a really great reading experience overall. That being said, started with the one book that I did not finish, Inciting Joys, Essays by Ross Gay. I don't remember what I thought this book was gonna be. I think I thought that was gonna be like warm and feel goody, and I always struggle with short stories. Like that's a personal, I guess, bias or dislike of mine. I always struggle with short stories. I couldn't finish it. I was not interested at all. The first one, in a book titled Inciting Joy, the first one was about his dad dying. The second one was about him gardening during the pandemic. It wasn't like things that made me feel warm and fuzzy, and that's kind of what I was seeking. So I didn't even make it that far. I made it like maybe like 20% and did not finish. Banger, Hold You Down by Tracy Brown. This follows a family, mainly 2 sisters, Mercy and Lennox, and it starts when they're young and they have young sons, Judah and Dion. It's in the 1980s on Staten Island, going up into the early 2000s. It is a tough book. Like, this is a real life type of book. It is not escapism. It is not feel good. Like, it's not that every feeling that you get is a negative one. Like, it's definitely not like that, but it's just so real life that obviously like there's a lot of tragedy that happens and the characters are just like very real people. My Goodreads review for this book was, this 5-star makes me question if any other book has ever been 5 stars, just because it was so powerful and I feel like so well written. That being said, it is a tough book with tough content. However, if you are somebody who subscribed to me whenever I was working in jail, whenever I was doing psychotherapy with teenagers who were incarcerated, and you're like, oh, what was it really like? Like, who were you working with? What was therapy like? That type of thing. I feel like this story is obviously not the exact same, but I'm trying to think how to say this. The 2 boys that are in this story, I have had clients who their story very much resembles like each of these boys in the different types of ways. And the way that jail is depicted in here is very, very accurate to how I witnessed it when I was in there as well. Now, obviously with those stories, I was an outsider looking in. Like, I got to know my clients, but it's so much different than living the story or having brothers, cousins of mine living the stories. So I can't speak too much into this story because it is not mine. Like, it is about Black Americans and their experience both in New York in the 1980s and the 1990s within a hustle culture that I didn't grow up within, and the incarceration system in the way that it treats Black and brown men. I don't know. It was such a tough book, but like such a powerful book. It was an easy 5 stars. Another historical fiction, Hotel Laguna by Nicola Harrison. This actually comes out in June. I don't know if it says specifically what day in June. So like in this month it comes out. This is an arc of it. It follows a girl, Hazel Francis. During World War II, she moved from her like small life in Kansas to California and started working in an aircraft factory, which gave her like the sense of purpose and the sense of power and the sense of being a part of something bigger. And then after World War II finished and the men came back home, she was dismissed and like, thank you for your service while the men were away, but now they can take their jobs back and you go back to the home. And she's like, well, I don't really want to go back to the home. Also, I don't really have like a husband or kids to go back to. So she ends up in Laguna Beach, which is a small, beautiful, kind of charming beach town in California. She starts working for an artist there who is complex and has almost like a mystery type thing going on with like a piece of his art and his history. So we're following through that piece of art and that history, and we're also following like Hazel's relationship with a boy who she's getting to know. Overall, like a very like charming little tale in the 1940s California that also holds some depth to it. I forget what I rated it. I think it was like around 4 stars, maybe like a 4.25. It was really enjoyable, honestly. Like, I really found that she was a relatable main character, and what's cute is the dialogue. Like, in my head I had like a 1940s movie going on, you know, just like the way they talk I felt like was historically accurate just from what I know from watching movies. Another banger, A Psalm for the Wild Built. I had mentioned this one because it is one of Allison Page's like top recommendations. She's the one that I heard about it from. It is a short little story. It is about a tea monk who is like struggling kind of with his sense of purpose, and he runs into a robot, and in this little world, robots used to be like enslaved to people, but then robots like had consciousness, and so the people and the robots came to an agreement where people were like, we're not going to enslave you anymore, you get to choose if you want to still live among us. And the robots were like, thank you for the offer, we're actually going to go out into the wilderness this and we're just like not gonna make contact. Like, please do not contact us. We're gonna do our own thing. If we ever make contact again, like we will initiate it, that type of thing. Like, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cute. But as this T-Monk is like going through the countryside, like without a purpose, he runs into a robot and they start to get to know each other and like are hanging out. It's cute. I really enjoyed it. I forget if I gave it a full 5 stars, but it's deep towards the end in like a warm hug type way that I feel like just makes you feel good about humanity, makes you feel like you're doing okay. There's a second one, like a sequel, that I look forward to picking up at some point, but it was another banger. So many bangers. The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. I flew through this. I was so hooked. It is a summer camp mystery. Back when Emma was a child, she was at this summer camp and her 3 cabin mates went missing, never to be found, never to be heard from again, bodies never found. Total mystery. Obviously traumatizing. Emma grows up, still kind of holding on to that trauma. She's become a painter. The camp closed after 3 girls went missing because it's kind of hard, you know, to stay open after that type of thing and the public scrutiny. And it was like a rich kid camp, and so the 3 girls, like their parents had some status, whatever. But then 15 years later, the leader of the camp comes to Emma and lets her know that she is planning on opening the camp again, and she wants to invite old campers back to be like kind of counselor, instructor type people for the new group of girls that's coming in. And whenever Emma gets there, she starts to realize that maybe she's being watched a little closer than she thought she would be. Some sketchy things start happening, some creepy things start happening, and it's kind of like, okay, what's actually going on with this camp reopening? There are twists on twists on twists in a very enjoyable way. The chapters, you get some from 15 years ago and you get some from the present. There's also some aspects of like what is real and what isn't real. So this hooked me in so much. Like, this was a 5-star thriller to me. I really enjoyed this. It was published a while ago, like maybe like 2018, 2019. The Last Time I Lied, Riley Sager. A Man Called Ove, another banger, Frederick Bachman. It made me cry. It's about an old curmudgeon man getting to know his neighbors, honestly. Like, there's so much that goes into it. It's funny in like a dark humor type of way. It's heartfelt. It, like I said, made me cry. And then on the plane ride back yesterday, A Man Called Otto, like the movie version of this book in the US that came out earlier this year, I watched it. It made me cry. The movie's not as good as the book because it doesn't have as much backstory going on, but I would say that it's pretty accurate to the book. So I would suggest like reading the book, and then if you want to, as like a supplementary, watching the movie. But both of them made me bawl. So there's that for you. Oh, Hold You Down. The first Hold You Down made me cry too. So these are both on my list of books that made me cry. Just 2 more, don't worry. Deep and Dark and Dangerous, Mary Downing Hahn. Whenever I mentioned this in a recent workweek video, so many people were like, oh my gosh, that's so sentimental. I hadn't thought about those books in years. Like, I'm so nostalgic. You don't have to reread it. Rereading it, I was like, what is this? Like, I remember it being so much better than it actually read to be, which part of that says it's middle grade. So like the main character whose point of view we're reading from is like 13, which whenever I read the book was older than me. So I was like, oh my gosh, she's so cool. And then looking at it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, what? What? And it's not like twisty or anything. Like, you know exactly what's gonna happen basically from page 1. So however you remember the book, let it live in your memories. You don't have to reread it. That being said, like, I loved it so much when I was a kid that I'm not gonna be like, oh, this is a bad book. No, it was just a reread. I don't even think I rated it again. I wouldn't necessarily like recommend rereading it, but I mean, it was such a big part of 5th grade. Lastly, The Matchmaker's Gift by Lyndon Cohen Loigman. This was such a great book when I was reading it. However, I feel like it kind of got eclipsed by the books that I read after it. This is the book that I finished like on the plane ride to vacation, so it's the longest ago. I've already talked about it, I feel like, in a recent video. It was good. Like, I really enjoyed the story, but like I said, I don't think it's like as strong of a recommendation as some of the other ones have been. Okay, let's head to the library. 12 minutes later. Wow, I hope I cut this down. Shorten it down a little bit. That was a big book section to start with. But I'm gonna head to the library. Good morning, happy Wednesday. I drove to work today doing my little drive and shuttle combo instead of bus and walk combo because actually today after work from 4 to 6, they're having a new hire party over at the administration building that I did the orientation at. And I'm really excited. It's a new hire party for the entire, basically the center that I'm a part of. So it's not hospital wide, but it's my specific people, I guess. I don't know. I'm assuming there'll be new grad nurses there. I'm assuming there'll just be anyone else who was hired recently, which includes me. But they're gonna have games. In the RSVP, they asked for my t-shirt size. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have food, so I'm really excited. And my supervisor and I are going together since I park here, but she can park at the hospital, so I'm just gonna drive with her and we're going together to the little new hire party after work today. I'm that's so fun. I'm so excited for that. Today, I think will be, it'll be really busy in the morning, and then I think maybe we'll slow down. Of course, now that I say that, I'm probably gonna have the most hectic afternoon, but for the next week and a half or so, I am rounding with medical teams almost every morning, which takes 2.5 hours. That's what you see, on Grey's Anatomy or such, where they all have their little rolly computers. I'm not gonna have a rolly computer, but they all have their little rolly computers and they're wheel around to every single patient on the floor to give updates, discuss, I don't know, we'll find out. But the areas that I cover include an ICU and then an acute care unit, so the step down from the ICU. Both are higher than just regular general pediatric care hospital admissions. But today, I think this week, I'm pretty sure the whole rest of this week, I am going to round with the acute care medical teams, and then next week is when I'll round with the ICU medical teams. I think that's how it goes. I'm pretty sure that's the only scheduled thing, maybe. We have social work huddles Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so that'll include today, but usually those are just 5-minute kind of check-ins with all the social workers. We just meet at a random hallway on a random floor and literally huddle. And then there's also time built in for me to kind of just review charts, click around, see how people document, become familiar with the system. And then there are still policies that I need to read. So there's independent study time for me to do that as well. The lighting is bad, so sorry, it's a bad time to do it, but I've gotten a couple questions asking to do a what's in my work bag. This bag I got from Marshall's in 2018. I do think eventually I'll get a new work bag just because this one doesn't have any pockets, it's just one thing. Also, the strap is not comfortable and it's a one shoulder, so especially if I'm walking and stuff like that, I don't love it, but it's good enough. It's 100% good enough for now, so it's not on the top of my purchase list. I have other things that are higher up on my purchase lists, but I have all the necessities, wallet. I bring my AirPods, got my work phone. It really is nothing too special. I'm bringing both my breakfast and lunch because since I've only been home for less than 36 hours at this point, Costa Rica is 2 hours behind Eastern time. It's technically Central time, but they don't do daylight savings time, so really it's Mountain time right now. Meaning that I haven't been eating breakfast, in the habit of eating breakfast until probably 9 or 10 current Eastern time. And so when I woke up this morning, I'm not hungry, so I've been bringing my breakfast yesterday and today to work and just been eating as I check my email and stuff in the morning. I brought lunch as well. I have several old masks in here that I really just need to throw away because they're not clean anymore. I bring deodorant to try to stay fresh during the day. I bring these little plastic silverwares. This came in a FabFitFun box. It technically could be keychained onto somewhere, but it's a fork, knife, and spoon in there, which is just really convenient. I bring my book with me just for when I get the chance through the day, whether it's on the shuttle or at lunch. I just find it's nice to have my book around with me. And that's really it. I really don't bring much beyond that. I obviously bring my badge. At this point, I'm just really not packing too much. Eventually, maybe, I don't know, this week or next week, I'm gonna try to pull together some pictures and stuff that I wanna bring into my desk. Maybe a few decorations that I wanna bring into my desk because I've never had the chance to decorate a desk before. But overall, I'm excited for today. I'm a little bit nervous to round with medical team just because those are the big dogs, And they're having me do it partly to learn more and hear more about the medical side of things, but then also to get to know the actual medical team and such more. So it'll be good, and I'm sure I'll get used to it since I'm doing it for every day for a week and a half. But today's the first day, so I'm a little bit nervous to it, but I'm gonna go walk down to my shuttle.
Time is up, the lights are going down. I know you have something to do.
It is 6 right now, and I am now getting ready to head home, but this was clocked in time, so I get to either come an hour and a half late or leave an hour and a half early, either Thursday or Friday, so I think I'm gonna leave early tomorrow and then go get my gait analysis at the running store that I've been meaning to do, but I've been waiting to be getting paid for my job to actually do, so I'm actually really excited about that. But I guess I'll start backwards. The last 2 hours of my day was this little new hire party, which was cute and fun. It was just kind of a little social event. They had fancy little hors d'oeuvres, and then we played trivia trivia. There was like a bingo game with people's fun facts about themselves. And I rode over with my supervisor from the hospital because she parks there. And we did supervision on the way over. Like instead of having a scheduled like sit down in a conference room meeting this week, we did clinical supervision just like on the way over, which I thought was kind of fun. I have gotten questions, let me pull up to be specific. I have gotten questions about if my supervision that I'm doing now counts for clinical licensure and how that works. So short answer, yes. Long answer, I've already gotten some of my supervision hours that can get signed off on from jail job. Like I was also getting supervision there, though it was set up kind of differently. In Georgia, you have to wait 36 months between when you got your MSW before you can even think about applying for your clinical license. And so I have until 2025 regardless, like no matter what I do. And then you have to get, I think it's 120 supervision hours, up to 50% of which can be group, up to 50% of which can be like LPC, psychologist, LCSW, anything. And then at least half of them have to be individual and at least half of them have to be with an LCSW. So at jail, I was getting supervised by a psychologist. So I wouldn't have been able to get my full hours there regardless, but I got a good number of them. Now, however, I am getting supervised by an LCSW and individual. So like I'm good to go. I'm definitely gonna have enough hours by 2025. So LCSW in the future at that point. But the clarification that I wanted to make is that in some states, I believe that it's required that you have to be doing like psychotherapy for it to count for clinical hours. Even for social work, I kind of feel like that's like a trickle from other disciplines into social work because clinical social work can be things other than psychotherapy. I actually like looked up Georgia's little definition of it whenever I was answering the question so that I could like actually say exactly. But in Georgia, clinical experience that you're getting supervised for is defined as psychosocial evaluation, counseling, psychotherapy, and interpretation of psychosocial dynamics and recommending courses of action. So that very much is entirely the hospital. I just don't do the psychotherapy part of it because it's not like a full sit down in a confidential private area and like really dive in deep to the mental health type things. But there is counseling through grief support, through receiving tough diagnoses, through needing to share news with family that you don't want to have to say out loud. Like there's counseling in that type of way. And then very much psychosocial evaluation with every patient and family that comes into the hospital. They're being evaluated psychosocially to figure out how their psychosocial needs can be met while they're in the hospital. And then interpretation of those psychosocial dynamics and recommending courses of action is also very much present in the hospital setting. As far as the actual day goes though, today I did round with the medical team, with one of the medical teams in acute care today. It was 3 hours of what felt like to me playing doctor. They do have those little rolly computers and basically it was the attending, a fellow, a resident, a med student, a nutritionist came for a little bit, and an NP came for some of the rooms too that she was assigned for. And they just kind of meet and talk about medically what's going on. Are there any updates? What's the story of this patient? And then they go into the room, they kind of check on the patient. If the family's there, they talk with the family some too. So it was a lot of just witnessing that. And the reason they were wanting me to shadow so many people, because this is going to be true going on in the future weeks too, even as I start to get some of my caseload, is just to give the bigger picture of like what's really going on. Because in a hospital, obviously social work is not the number one thing. Like it's not why people are there. People are there for their medical reasons. And there's so many people working together for the hospital to work and to do all of its services. And so just being able to see that and see how different people work and do their things. One, has just been really cool to see, just observing, strictly observing. But then the fact that they're letting me shadow different people outside of social work too, I feel like is really rewarding. So it's cool. For example, I'm so excited to shadow child life. Child life specialists are so insanely cool of jobs, like in the impact that they have on children that are in a hospital. Huge respect, mad respect for any child life specialists out there. I like to think like in a different world, I would have been a child life specialist. Same goes for everyone else, but I just like the more I learn about them, I'm just like, wow, like kids are benefiting. Anyways, tonight, let's see. I need to eat dinner. I kind of thought they'd have more food at my party. They didn't. They just had like the tiny little fancy hors d'oeuvres. And then I think I'm gonna do some like YouTube work, like finishing a thumbnail, working on editing the Costa Rica video. That's kind of the plan for tonight. Nothing huge because I worked out this morning, so I'm not doing anything as far as that goes tonight. But I mostly am just really excited to go get my running shoes tomorrow.
Before you can let it go. You can let it go.
It was supposed to rain, or like thunderstorm, almost all day today, to the point where I considered driving to work because I didn't know if I'd be able to walk the distance that I have been home. And it is hot and sunny and hot and I'm sweaty but I made it home from another good day at work. It went differently than I had thought today would go. I didn't end up rounding with the medical team like I was technically supposed to, because we had like a different type of rounds, and by the time that I was ready to join the medical team, they had already started and like done a few patients, and so I just shadowed one of the social workers instead. I did leave early. It ended up being about an hour early instead of an hour and a half that I could have, because towards the end of the day I wasn't doing anything and the social workers were having more of a slower afternoon, but the music therapist was about to go see a couple patients, so I was like, can I come with you? I want to see what you do too. And so I was able to shadow and kind of sit in on what she does. And I know I spoke highly about like child life specialists yesterday, but also music therapists. Like, it's just so cool to see the different like healing supports that are present. And so I got to sit in with a 2-year-old who was like her first interaction with the music therapist. So they just kind of, you know, like shook some things, she sang, like did some like rhythm, I don't know, just kind of like let it be. The 2-year-old led the play, the music play, I guess. And then the other was a 4-month-old, so obviously pretty small, but he loved the music and his parents loved the music. So it just ended up being like a very sweet connected moment where even babies that small can just light up and really like feel what the music, you know, is wanting you to feel the energies behind it. So it was really cool and good to see like sweet moments of joy in medically complex times in kids' lives. But now what I'm so excited for, and I know I've already mentioned it, is going to a running store to get a gait analysis. This is something that I've wanted to do for honestly since I started running, like at the end of April, but I wanted to make sure that I stuck with the habit before I did. But basically the shoes that I got Hokas to start running in because my other Hokas were so old and would not support my foot to run in. And I really have liked those Hokas. I do still get blisters from them, and I also feel that maybe my feet just need more support than those ones specifically provide. I'm not sure. I've always had low arches, so I wear the Hokas now with little arch inserts. But at the running store, they do a gait analysis where it's like you run on a treadmill and they video like your feet and your legs and how your foot's hitting and everything to really analyze it and figure out like what shoes you actually need, like what would actually be best for you on runs. And so I'm very excited to see like what shoes work best for my feet, maybe get some good tips. I know they sell like gear and stuff at the running store too, so I'm ready to drop a lot of money. After not getting an income for 2 months, I was keeping a list of things that I like thought about wanting to buy, and obviously like some things that you think about wanting to buy a couple weeks pass and you're like, yeah, I didn't actually need that. But since it was 2 whole months, then there are stuff that stayed on the list that now I'm excited to purchase. First of which is being those running shoes. So I'm gonna get changed, drive over there. So excited. I get to see our dirty laundry, or our clean laundry too.
I like the indent in the middle, it's cool.
Like that thing? The energy arc?
No,
Oh.
flip it over. There's a hole in the middle.
Oh! That'll catch some rocks. He also said that my current running plan is really good, which it better be because I spent 3 hours like researching it and coming up with it. But the whole running 4 times a week, one of them being a long run, 2 of them being easy runs that you keep your heart rate down, and then 1 of them being a tempo run, which is exactly what I've been doing. I didn't even ask if there were other colors because I did like these, and I like the bright shoes. The only thing that these ones, not that I couldn't do it in, but it's not necessarily made for, is any kind of speed work. So then I can just use my Hokas for those ones. Or I could do this ones. Oh, funny thing, I didn't know my shoe size apparently. I'm at 8. I'm a full 8. I've been getting 7.5s.
It's been a long time coming.
After work, Zach and I went to Bantam and Biddy to have a little dinner, and as always, the chicken nachos were great. But today at work, I shadowed the acute care team doctors again for the entire morning. It's like 3.5 hours of rounds, and then I shadowed one of the social workers, and so just got to see her interact with various families. Like, there was nothing too notable. I'm starting to learn like different referrals and things. I feel like, I don't know, the referrals are like pretty easy once you know what to start referring families to, because for instance, like referring a family to Ronald McDonald House, it's literally just like an online form that you just like put their name and information in. So then it's kind of funny to me because when shadowing, it's like, have you ever done this before? Do you need help with this form? And I'm looking at them like patient's name, parent's name, you know, like it's not too hard. Obviously there are harder parts of the job than that, but I feel like that was what a lot of today was, which is like looking at the different forms and being like, okay, this is where the name goes, etc. All of that. Excited to have another work week done though. Especially it's crazy that this one came straight off of vacation. It definitely didn't feel like a short work week. It didn't feel like a 4-day work week, but I guess technically it was. I'm excited for the weekend coming up and excited for all the weeks coming up too. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this. We get keys to our new apartment on Tuesday, 4 days away. So that's something to look forward to. Thanks for joining. Make sure to subscribe before you go, and I'll see you next time.